Hello there, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to talk about Mafia code words you didn't know. So in the last few videos, we talked about things like Mafia money laundering techniques, how the Mafia attacks the witness protection program, and also Mafia weapons. And of course, if you haven't seen those videos, do check them out. They're really interesting topics. And in all of these videos, we kind of go behind the scenes of how the Mafia actually operates. This is because it's not all violence and shooting people in the streets. There's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes. So, when we talk about code words, what we mean is that members of the Mafia have secret words or phrases they use to communicate with each other. Sometimes this is because they don't want the authorities to know what they're talking about. And sometimes it's just their way of communicating without drawing too much attention to themselves. Now, let's get right into it with number 10 on our list. Bag of nails. If you hear somebody say they need to go get a bag of nails, what you really mean is that they have to go and get some cash. Because in the Mafia world, a nail is worth $1,000. So if you needed $5,000, you would tell your contact that you need 5 bags of nails. Now, why they use the word nails instead of, let's say, money or cash, we'll never really know. But maybe they didn't want the authorities to connect the dots if they were listening in on conversations. Next up on our list, we have altered visa. This is one that is quite self-explanatory. So if somebody had an altered visa, it means that their visa was fake, and it's likely that they were trying to enter a country illegally. So in the Mafia world, this is serious business because illegal immigrants can be smuggled across borders for thousands of dollars. So if somebody has an altered visa, they may be carrying a large amount of cash on them. It might also mean that they are part of a smuggling ring, and you should stay away from them at all costs. Next up, we have big step. So this is another one that is pretty easy to understand. So the big step is the point of no return. So if someone tells you that they are taking the big step, it means that they are committing themselves to something. Usually this is used when somebody is joining a gang or making a decision that will change their life forever. In the Mafia world, it's usually used when someone is deciding to become a made man. So this is a very serious thing because once someone takes the big step, there is no turning back. Moving on, we have Another Day in Paradise. This is one that I'm sure many of you haven't heard before. So, the song Another Day in Paradise is by Phil Collins. And even though it's not directly related to the Mafia, it has become a popular song amongst them to talk about drugs. So if you hear someone say that they are having another day in paradise, it means that they are going to get high. And depending on who you are, you may want to avoid that conversation. Next up, we have cold cuts. So, cold cuts is another phrase that's used to talk about drugs. But this time around, it refers specifically to cocaine. Now again, this is just another way that mafiosos make sure that the authorities aren't listening in on them, because if they were listening in and they heard somebody say that they wanted some cold cuts, they probably wouldn't connect the dots. Now, moving on, we have carry a big stick. This is one that doesn't necessarily refer to a Mafia code word, but rather a rule. In the Mafia, you always carry a weapon with you. They usually prefer guns, but sometimes knives or other weapons will suffice. So this is just a way of saying that you always carry a weapon. And if somebody says that you need to carry a big stick, it simply means that you need to carry a gun. Next up, we have dead meat. So, this is one that you may not want to hear. It basically means that somebody has been killed. So, if you hear that somebody has some dead meat in their trunk, you should probably steer clear of them. Moving on, we have diamond is forever. So diamonds are, of course, expensive and beautiful pieces of jewelry. But did you know that in the Mafia world, diamonds are used as a metaphor to talk about women? So, if you hear somebody say that the diamond is forever, it means that they have found the girl of their dreams. Of course, this isn't always the case. Sometimes it just means that they really like a girl. But either way, it's a Mafia code word you shouldn't ignore. Next up, we have finger licking good. So, this one is pretty easy to understand. If you hear somebody say that the food is finger licking good, it simply means that it's really good. But in the Mafia world, they use it as code to say that the food is laced with something. Now, this could be anything from sleeping pills to poison. If you eat any of the food, you may be in trouble. Moving on, we have a nice day. So, this is one that is pretty self-explanatory. The Mafia likes to keep things simple, and they don't want to draw too much attention to themselves. So if you hear somebody say, "Have a nice day," they probably mean it. But there are times when it's not just a nice way of saying goodbye. It's actually a threat. If somebody says, "Have a nice day," and they seem angry, it means that you should expect some violence soon. Next up, we have ice cream headache. So, ice cream headaches are usually caused by eating too much ice cream too quickly. But in the Mafia world, it's a code phrase for getting whacked. So, if somebody tells you that they have an ice cream headache coming, it means that they are about to be killed. And if you see somebody with an ice cream headache, you should try to help them. Now, moving on, we have kick the bucket. This is one that is pretty common in Mafia movies, but you may not know that it's actually a real code phrase. To kick the bucket means to die. Now, this is usually used when somebody dies violently, like in a mob hit. So, if somebody says that they're going to kick the bucket, it's probably best to stay out of their way. Next up, we have legs. So legs is another way of saying money. In fact, it's probably even more common than nails. So, if somebody asks you how much do your legs weigh, they're really asking you how much money do you have. Now, this is pretty easy to understand, but it's important to know because it's a common Mafia code word. Next up, we have lots of friends. So, in the Mafia world, it's not uncommon to have lots of friends. And if somebody says that they have lots of friends, it means that they have lots of enemies. So if you hear somebody say that they have lots of friends, you may want to stay out of their way. Next up, we have making pancakes. This is one that is a little bit more gruesome, but it's still important to know. So making pancakes means making somebody disappear.
Oh.
This is usually done to witnesses of crimes, and it's a way of keeping the peace. In the Mafia world, you don't want to be a witness to a crime, because you may end up as pancake batter. Next up, we have mattress. A mattress is another way of saying money. In fact, it's a very common Mafia code word. If somebody says that they have a lot of mattresses, it means that they have a lot of money. Now, this is not only because they make a lot of money through criminal activities, but also because they launder their money through mattresses. Finally, we have playing baseball. So playing baseball is another way of saying committing murder. It's usually used in reference to mob hits, and it's a way of making light of a very serious situation. In the Mafia world, murder is everyday life, and they often joke about it. So, if you hear somebody say that they're going to go play some baseball, it means that they're going to kill somebody. So there you have it. Yeah, these are just some of the many Mafia code words that you didn't know. In the next video, we are going to continue this series and talk about even more Mafia code words. So, make sure to stay tuned so you don't miss out. Also, if you liked this video, please leave a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching.